welcome back for another episode of the Yarn Curator podcast. My name is Naomi and welcome to my channel where we like to talk about all things knitting related. I promise I am clothed underneath. I was just looking at that and I was like, oh my gosh, I look naked. But we do have clothes on as well in addition to talking about knitting, and it is a knitted piece on underneath me. And I am awkwardly rambling like I normally do, but welcome. If you're a new viewer, welcome. That was just a little sample of what you're in for. But if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back week after month after month. I would say week after week, but we haven't been that consistent this year. So I have a few things to talk about with you guys today. It's kind of varied in content. I was earlier thinking, well, I shouldn't sit down and record. I only have 2 knitted projects to talk about, but then I started gathering everything. And so, yeah, I have a finished object. I have a work in progress. I have a kind of new cast on. I have a swatch, and I actually have a sewn garment to show you guys, which is a first ever. You will see it here first today on this channel. So social media and all of that good stuff will be down below. If you liked today's episode, hit that thumbs up button, consider subscribing, just helps continue to grow the channel so other people can enjoy. Without further ado, we will jump in. I am wearing a finished object. I did post a video about this about a week ago. This is the Plumeria top. It is a new pattern by Wool and Pine Designs, which is a design duo of Abby and Selena, who make up Wool and Pine. And I was lucky enough to be able to test knit this for them throughout the month of August. And I absolutely love my finished top. It is so comfortable, it is so cozy, and I think it is super flattering. I have not taken it off very much since I finished making it. So I knit this out of Illamani yarn on their Sabri base in the dusk colorway. It is an 85% cotton, 15% alpaca blend, and I believe there are roughly like 437 yards per skein. I don't know what I did with the labels, but I know I was filling out pattern info earlier, and that sounds about right. I really like this yarn. It is so soft, it is so breathable, it has a really nice drape due to that alpaca content, and that just lends itself really nicely to the lace motif that is kind of the bottom 2/3 of the knit. If you're interested in hearing about how this was constructed and my thoughts on the pattern, I highly encourage you to go watch my finished object feature video on this test knit, because I kind of go into all of that good stuff in there. I have been wearing it with a pair of high-waisted shorts that are a little bit longer, and I think it looks really cute with that. And the nice thing about the shorts being a little bit higher waisted is that you can't really see my stomach through the lace motif, even though the way it hangs and drapes, it's not like your belly's peeking through all that much anyways. For some reason in my head, I thought the testing period was a week longer than it was, so I got distracted by my whip that I'll show you in a second, and I abandoned this for my new cast on. And then I was like, oh crud, I got 6 days to finish this garment, and then I banged it out. You know how it is when you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know why I thought the release date or the testing end date was further back than it was. But I do have to say, you guys know this, I live in Florida, it's really hot, and I have to say, I have worn this out in the heat a few days now, and yes, I've sweat. I mean, that's what you do in the 98% humidity during the height of summer, but this has not felt hot while I've been wearing it. Like, I have been hot due to the weather conditions, but I haven't felt hot because I'm wearing this top. This might be my new favorite summer yarn, and it is really affordable. It's about 15 bucks a skein, and generous, not generous, it's standard fingering weight yardage. So one of the nice things for myself is most fingering weight kind of knitted tees or summer tops, I only need enough yardage out of 2 skeins to be able to complete the garment. And so that was really nice because I only spent about $35 on the yarn for this, and it's really nice and really breathable. That being said, I did use every little stinking last bit of this yarn. I don't know if you can see that there, but I used all of it. All of it got used. It did use every single bit of yarn. I was a little worried at the end, and I did have to omit one rib row at the bottom. Say rib row 10 times fast. Rib row, rib row, rib row, rib row, rib row, rib row. That is a knitter's tongue-tied twister for you for your week. As I mentioned earlier, I do only have one work in progress. However, it is a new cast on. It's just been hanging out in an old fringe bag. So if you watched my last sit down show and tell episode, you will know that I purchased this yarn at Stash, a place for yarn in Tampa, which is one of my local yarn shops. This is a Zauberball. It's a merino nylon blend, and I already had another Zauberball in my stash. This one is just 100% merino, and I purchased it in March when I met up with my mom and my sister Zoe in Savannah. When I bought this yarn, I was originally thinking I was gonna make socks. For some strange unknown reason, my mind left my body without realizing this was a 100% merino yarn. Not the best choice for making socks, even if I was never going to follow through with that plan. I do have to say though, I have been knit-fluenced by several people in the knitting podcasting world who are currently making the Night Shift by Andrea Mowery, which every time I text the word night shift to Zoe, my phone autocorrects it to nightshirt. So this is now my nightshirt project. And that's what I'm just gonna call it from now till the end of time. So if I refer to it as my nightshirt throughout the rest of the episode, that's why. So I cast this on, and I have been loving working on this. I have been a bigamous knitter. I have only worked on these 2 things over the last month or so. So be proud of me, you guys. But I cast this on, and what I am doing is every time you are supposed to start a new section, I switch to what should be the dominant and okay, so you have your dominant color. What is the other color? Because my mind just went to like 50 Shades of Gray. Background color. We'll go with background color. A lot less naughty. You have your dom and your sub. I am sorry. So the color work in this pattern is achieved through mosaic knitting, which is which is a color work technique. It's not stranded like Fair Isle. It's done by working one color at a time and slipping stitches to achieve this effect. And so depending on what's being slipped or what's just being knit straight is what creates a dominant and a background color. And so I have just been alternating which one is the dominant and which one is the background color whenever I finish a section. I have to say I bought this pattern without really looking at the pattern details on Ravelry, which means I did not realize this is written for a worsted weight yarn, and I'm being a rebel. I'm using fingering weight yarn. So can't tell me to knit with worsted weight. But what that meant is I had to do a little bit of tweaking. So what I did is I have gone down to a US size 6. I have knit shawls in the past with fingering weight yarn at this gauge or with a US size 6 needle. And it's giving the stitches a nice amount of room to like spread out and coexist with each other through that mosaic knitting technique. And what I plan on doing is I have a second one of these, because this is only a 50-gram skein and this is 100 grams, is I plan on just going till I run out of yarn or it feels like it's big enough. I think the pattern's written to where you do, I don't know, like 8 or 9 repeats of this chart, but I'm just gonna go till the end. And the nice thing is, since this yarn is self-striping, I don't really have to do any work other than switching what is and isn't the dominant or submissive background color. Naomi, how can you make knitting tawdry? Easily. Challenge accepted. So I think I've done about six section repeats so far. I have to tell you guys, I love my...
Ladies and gentlemen,
welcome back for another game of Naomi awkwardly holding knitwear in front of her face.
Favorite part of this pattern is this right here, this kind of blue pink, is just, I just love it. It just pops. It's so pretty. I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying the magic of self-striping and just letting the yarn speak for itself. I do have to say, now that it's getting big, it's getting a little stripey almost, but it's fine. I'm trying to not be a control freak and just going with the process and enjoying the process of knitting this shawl. So yeah, this is my little rebel night shirt. Who knew? Night shirts, they can be rebellious and a little naughty. So the other thing that I have been working on, distracted by, I'm not sure what the best descriptor is there, is I am participating in a knit along with a bunch of other people here on YouTube. It is being hosted primarily by Nikki of the Knitting with Cat Hair podcast. And we are having a year-long Marie Wallin make-along. And I, once again, was knitfluenced by Maggie, who has the Sonder knitting channel. And when I announced this make-along in my last video, she's like, this is a perfect excuse to make the Yell cardigan, which is something I've lusted after since seeing Taylor Owen's version. I'm sorry, I realize I'm name dropping a lot right now. However, I blame you, Maggie, for me making this pattern because I totally forgot about it till you said that. And there are quite a few of us who are participating in this make-along who are all gonna be yelling together. And so I have started my swatch. I'm just knitting it on 9-inch circular needles. So I was texting with Zoe, kind of going back and forth about what I wanted my color palette to be. And originally I was thinking my main color, I was going to do kind of this like mustardy yellow. I don't know what it is lately. This color has grown on me. I'm here for it. I thought this might be a little too bold for the main color, considering there is a lot of other colors taking place in this project. So I went for this kind of, I think the color is called golden brown. This is all Biches Buches. For those of you who are curious, I love this yarn. It's a 100% petite lamb's wool. It's soft and rustic and woolen spun. I knit my poet out of this same base, and I absolutely love this yarn. I have another sweater's quantity of like a off-white color in my stash, but anyways, I ordered more of this yarn. So this is their dark gold colorway. The light is kind of blowing it out. This is a little more true to color back here. And so this will be the main color of the cardigan, and here I'm holding it with that off-white color, but I decided to switch it. So I got this other kind of creamy neutral. This just has a little bit more brown tones to it, and I think it'll warm the palette up nicely. So that'll be kind of the main top portion of the body. I'm not going to go through every color combination because we would be here all day long. So anyways, focus back in. So here in my beautiful foldable basket, everyone else has these nice wicker baskets, and I'm here with my like $5 trash from Target. Not aesthetic. Here we go. So here is my color palette. I was kind of feeling kind of like a 1970s vibe. So like I said, this will be the main portion of the top, and then I pretty much plan on mimicking mostly Marie's color layout. So it goes from like a green to a purple into like a blue section, into like a flower motif, and then back through like blue, green, purple, I think, if I'm remembering it correctly. So I've got some, I think I'm missing a ball of yarn. No, I've got, this is a light green. It's showing a little more seafoam. So I've got some greens to play with. I've got some blues to play with. I have more of this yarn. This is just left over from my Poet. But I'm thinking for the flower, it's gonna be like this delicious 1970s-ness. So yeah, I am really excited to finish swatching. I'm gonna play with some of the color combinations in my swatch, and then hopefully I will be casting that project on within the next few weeks. If you're interested in joining, let me know down below. We have a group chat going on Instagram for everyone who's participating in the CAL. So if you want to jump in and be inspired by others, it's really encouraging and just warm and lovely to have other people who love yarn and colorwork and rustic breeds, and those are not predetermined factors. I'm just saying there's a really nice sense of camaraderie within there. And so if you want to join, let me know and we can get you into that group chat. So that does it for what I've been making, as well as acquisitions, because that came in the mail not too long ago, as did this yarn. But there's more. One of my New Year's resolutions this year was to get over or try and build my confidence in my sewing skills. Ever since I was probably like 12 or 13, I've always wanted to know how to use a sewing machine, and I've messed around with them, but I would not by any means call myself a competent sewer. And I don't really sew in straight lines, and so that's always been really discouraging, because I don't feel the confidence, even watching like a YouTube video, like going step by step along with someone to complete a project. It's just I just don't have that confidence, which is fine. That comes with practice, which is something I rarely do when it comes to sewing. So what I did was I sent my aunts a message. If you are a returning viewer, you'll be familiar with them. My Aunt Mary and my Aunt Laura both co-run a project bag shop called Fat Bottom Bags. So I was like, hey, can I get some sewing lessons? I said, I have fabric, I have the pattern. I bought it all at the new year with my New Year's resolution. And then I was just too scared to do it on my own, to be perfectly honest. So my Aunt Laura is the sewist of the family. She's made a few garments before. She was telling me when she was in high school, we were talking yesterday, when she was in high school, I can't remember, she used to sew. Sewing was part of one of her high school jobs. I feel really bad because not 24 hours ago we were having this conversation. So anyways, my Aunt Laura knows how to sew garments. She can look at a sewing pattern and actually like process the directions. So she helped me make my first dress, you guys. Look at this. I made a thing. I sewed a thing. And by sew, I mean it was a group project. There was 3 of my aunts helped me make this. And I'll put in some video footage of me wearing it. But this is the Shift dress, is the name of the pattern. The company name is Wickstein. And you can make it as a shirt or a short dress or a long dress. We customized the length to me because that was an easy modification to make. But I did the short sleeve. It's roughly to my knee. And yeah, we made this together. I did do this seam. I did this top stitching. Look how straight that is. It's not perfect, but it is probably the best straight line of sewing I have ever completed in my life. My aunts did towards the end, it took us about 9 hours to sew this, and towards the end of the night, they took on a bit more of the project. One, because it was some of the harder, more visible kind of finishing. And also I think they just wanted to get me out of my Aunt Laura's house and home to their husbands. But yeah, they did some of the sewing that looks really like nice and neat here, some of those seams, but I did the insides. So I sewed most of the body together. I was the ironing gopher, cut some of the pattern pieces. And yeah, overall, I'm really pleased. I think it looks really good. The fit is really good. The only thing I would change in retrospect is the pockets sit a little bit high because the belt kind of hits right here. And so I would probably if I make this again, I would bump it down like an inch or two. But I am so happy with this. And I still don't feel confident in my abilities. Like, I would still want a couple more lessons. Walking through the process or just getting more tips and pointers for how to sew in a straight line. And like every time we had to do a different hem, like some of the hems were like 3/8, some were a quarter, some we just eyeballed. Like my Aunt Laura was like, oh, move the needle this way or move the needle that way. And it was like, okay, I don't know those like lengths, like just looking at the machine and being like, oh, if I just move it to the left, it'll be 1/4 inch. And if I just move it to the right, it'll be 3/8 inch. And they both have, my Aunt Laura and my Aunt Mary both have far superior sewing machines. I'm not saying it is the tool that makes the difference. However, my sewing machine that I have here at the house is a 1970s Kenmore. And it's a tank. It's like still like kind of an older, like heavy, not cast iron, but like a heavy duty industrial machine. They have like nice new, literally smart sewing machines with computers in them. And they didn't have a foot treadle. You do hand controls with the button. So you would just push a button on the front of the sewing machine and it would go, and you would push it to stop. And you'd push another button and it would auto thread the machine. So that was really nice. And one of the things that I struggle with when I sew alone at home is I can almost never get the tension right between the needle and the bobbin. And never didn't once have that problem. It was funny, at the end of the night we were finishing and my Aunt Laura was ironing this so we could take a photo, and I can see it right here. They're like, oh, that seam isn't quite right. And I think I was using the bathroom or something, and I just yelled like, it was probably a part I sewed. And then I came out and looked at it and it was like, oh yeah, that was definitely my mistake. And they kept giving me such a hard time because they were like, you're too hard on yourself, Naomi. You're too hard on yourself. And it's like, no, I am honest with myself. I don't sew in a straight line. I mess things up. Like, if it looked bad, it was probably because I did it. Because, yeah, I'll show you the inside. So yeah, this is what my lines normally look like. Can you see that zigzag stitch I did to keep the fabric from fraying? That's what it looks like. There's a reason I needed lessons. This is why I needed a lesson. But it's all good. I did it. I think I would like to make this pattern again. However, I might just do it as a t-shirt. And then the fabric itself is a 55% linen, 45% cotton blend. And it has like a nice stretch to it. Well, you can't tell right now. not a lot, but a little bit of give, a little bit of stretch, which made it a little bit easier to sew. And then it's really nice and light and breathable. But a huge thank you to my Aunt Laura, my Aunt Mary, and my Aunt Sue for walking me through the project, for completing some of the finishing touches that really required a better hand at the machine than I have at the moment. And yeah, I can't wear this. I can't wear this. I can't wait to wear this. I'll probably wear it to work one day this week. So that does it for what I've been making. Work has been busy. Work has been crazy. If you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen that we had a dry fit for the exhibit that I've been working on. And so what that means is we are contracted with a exhibit fabrication company based out of Tampa. And they are basically, we provide the content and then they come up with a creative vision, and they are building displays and platforms as well as the graphic design, etc. for this exhibit. So what they did a couple weeks ago now, about 2 weeks ago, is they came in and a lot of the big major pieces for this exhibit, which is in a boat shop. So we have 4 boats going on display, and each boat is getting its own custom platform that it sits on that looks kind of like a dock. So what they did was they brought in those larger infrastructure pieces, or like if you do landscaping, like the hard landscaping, they brought those components in, as well as the reading rails and the pylons for the deck. And each boat has an audio component. Anyways, they brought all of that kind of built stuff in, which was really nice. It's total mess in this space because nothing's like affixed to the wall, but it was like, okay, everything fits. We don't need to tweak anything. They didn't need to take anything back to their shop, which is really nice. Me and the graphic designer are still going back and forth over the graphic design, but it's getting there. It's probably like 1 to 2 proofs away. Some of the panels are done and some just need a little bit of tweaking. So yeah, that's really exciting. We've started strategic planning for new exhibits through the upcoming year. One of the next spaces that we're going to tackle, I'm really excited about. It is our second oldest structure on site. It was built in 1879. It's this really cool Florida cracker would be the architectural style, and that is an actual style. But it's this really cool house that is split in 2. There's a dog trot in the middle, and then originally it was probably, or it wasn't probably, originally it was a 2-room structure. So there was the main living room, the dog trot, and then another room on the back, and the bedrooms were in these 2 closets off the side of the dog trot. And it's slowly been added to over time. Anyways, this house is the home to some of our partner groups that we work with, and the partner groups that live in this house that we're getting ready to reinterpret is actually our Weavers Guild, Quilting Club, and Basket Weavers. And so soon I get to be meeting with all of those. We call them our Fiber Arts group. The building's nicknamed Fab, which is the Fiber Arts building. So soon I get to be meeting with all of those groups. I want to understand how the space functions for them, but then we're going to be updating the exhibits and the interpretation in there. So it's a little more period appropriate. But in the meantime, I talked some ladies in the Weavers group into tackling the circular sock machine that we have at work. And the Weavers group is composed of spinners and knitters and weavers. They're kind of the most broad skill set of those groups. But we have this old Gearhart knitting sock machine at the museum. It's from 1924, and it looks functional. Like it's threaded with a tube on it. Granted, that might be for display purposes, but there is a long ass tube that hangs from this machine. So it had to have been operable at some point. So I've been going back and forth with our liaison for the club to see if there's a volunteer interested in tackling that, because it'd be really cool to be able to crank tubes that they can then sell in the gift shop. So yeah, that's been really fun, digging into a new project. kind of getting to come up with a new vision for how to display things in this house. So yeah, and then there's a few other spaces that we're going to tackle, but I'm most excited about tackling Fab. Mr. Yarn Curator and I have just continued to work on our house and our yard. We're not getting much done on the yard, even though it needs it, but it is so hot and it is the height of monsoon season here, and so it's really hard to kind of get out there, but we're slowly making the landscape changes that we want. Soon we're going to retile our front porch, and so that'll be really nice when that's all done. You can look at it with a nice sense of accomplishment. So I think I have rambled at you guys long enough. If you've enjoyed today's episode, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, all of that good stuff that you hear in everyone else's videos. Until next time, I hope you enjoy whatever you're making. I hope it brings you joy. I'll talk to you later. Bye.